but we need some simple support to help us translate the Rahbar's analysis and his guidelines into work. This is the gap that we have, and we have had it for over a decade now. A gap between the direction that we receive from good guidance, right, and the follow-through. Now we call it, if they have state-sponsored bottle, then we should have state-sponsored hock.
Very well. This gap, Dr. Morandi, I'm assuming one of the ways to have the message from the good, as Abdullah Musa said there, is through media. And we could also talk about print. I'm assuming that's one of the things that maybe we're not as strong in, perhaps, compared to the Western media, since they, in a sense, do have a stranglehold on the media. I noticed the guest in London said Muslim extremist. So that's, to me, a touch of Western media, because immediately equating Muslim with extremism is something that they're penetrating inside the minds of people. How can we fill in that gap? Is it the responsibility of the Imams of the different masjids from different countries? They need to converge. We know that Tehran had this huge gathering of Muslim scholars from around the world to clarify, to educate. This was held just a couple of months back. What do you think? How can that gap be filled?
I think that's the most difficult question to answer of all, because as you rightly pointed out, and your guest pointed out, that it's an issue of language and how we are constructed, especially in the West. For example, going back to the letter to Gorbachev, I think one of the important things about that letter was that the late Imam Khomeini was saying that, you know, until now you've been saying that all of the important ideas in the world come from the West. Whether it's Marxism, it's a European product, or capitalism, liberal capitalism, it's still a European product. And we've been hearing for centuries that in order for us to become civilized, we have to mimic the West. So we are not civilized, and in order to become civilized, we have to imitate. We have to make them. They basically, to a large degree, colonize our minds with these ideas, and and even in, some people in the way they walk and talk, and the way in which they dress, they mimic the West. And this is something that, you know, many thinkers have discussed in the past. But in this particular letter, I think that Imam Khomeini in that letter was basically saying that, look, we have something to offer. Your system has failed in the case of communism, but our system hasn't. On the other hand, I think this recent letter is significant in the sense that it also deals with the same question. And that it's talking about, it's not saying that it's not demonizing the West. In fact, in the letter, Ayatollah Khamenei actually speaks in praise of historians and Western thinkers who've critiqued many of the realities of the past and many of the problems that have been created as a result of policies promoted by important powers. But what he does also say is that, look, rethink your worldview. Look at us differently. And that actually is not only something that would be very courageous for a young person in the West to do, but also it's something very important for people in the non-Western world to do as well, to sort of rethink the world and not to simply look towards what is going on in the West, what the media in the West is saying, and try to think differently. Try to see, you know, maybe this part, what he's saying is we have something to say. So listen to us, listen to our voices, and then come to a conclusion. If people in the West, if young people in the West are able to follow that line of thought, then I think, you know, that would have a significant impact on society. But the reality is that the Western media has a stranglehold over the public discourse, not only in the West but also in the rest of the world. We in Iran know much of the rest of the world through the Western media. The rest of the world knows us through Western media. So this is a major problem. But and that is one reason which limits the impact of such letters. But this is something that people who are open-minded, people who are knowledgeable, they simply have to keep pushing until change is brought about. And one small point that I'd like to add about the notion of spectacle in the Western media, and for example how horrific images are constantly shown. This is one of the paradoxes, I think, of capitalism, in that on the one hand the media is in the hands of those who are close to power. To a large extent, the relationship between power as in government and power as in economy and corporations is quite clear. But also, because of the nature of capitalism, because they're constantly looking for more viewers, these sort of images are what make them increase their viewers. So in a sense, not only is capitalism a problem because it destroys democracy,